So I did have y'all propped like on my computer, but the angle was not working. I felt like you were like looking up my nose. It was quite disturbing. Okay, so let's talk about how I'm doing with 30 and 30 this week. I finished last week at, what was it? I don't know what I finished last week. Maybe I finished last week at like 9 volumes, and this week I'm walking into, what am I walking into? I'm walking into 14 volumes this week. Okay, so I ended up finishing volume 8. Did I finish volume 8? It should have been volume 8 of Dawn of the Arcana. I am currently reading volume 9. Still loving the series. Excellent read. So that would have put me at 10. 11, I don't know where my physical copy is. I think I may have left it upstairs somewhere. But I did start Perfect World. I'm just going to hold up volume 2 as a placeholder here. But I did start Perfect World, the series. And the first volume is not so perfect, ironically, with it being called Perfect World. It is about these two main characters who were friends in high school. She definitely has had a crush on him for a long time. When they meet again, she finds out that he had gotten into an accident when he was in college, and so he has a spinal cord injury that essentially paralyzes him from the waist down. And so she's developing feelings for him again, but she's realizing like what he's dealing with now that he is disabled. And I have something in my eyeball that is just literally just not wanting to go away. But here we go. Is it coming out? Is it coming out? My eyes have been giving me so many problems lately. But she's figuring out what he's dealing with, having a spinal cord injury. And so some of her thought process is ableist unintentionally. And so some of it does read a little cringy. So that first volume is such a difficult volume to get through because it is cringe. But I think that another issue that I kind of had with that first volume is that it is very info dumpy. I think that the mangaka is attempting to be very careful in how they portray disability, which I definitely applaud, but it becomes so info dumpy or fact dumpy in order to make people aware of his disability that it is not allowing the story to flow. So I think that they could have worked on a more concise way, or worked in a more concise way of illustrating what it's like for him to navigate life day to day with his disability, but also allow the friendship and romantic aspects between them to develop simultaneously. I think they leaned very, very heavily on the information dumping in this first volume. So it read kind of awkwardly in some sections. So I read that one, but I had sprints, as you saw from the B-roll footage. I did sprints. I ended up finishing the Yakuza's Bias Volume 2. Loved. This is so hilarious. The artwork in this is phenomenal. It is to die for. It is monumental. I really, really, really am enjoying the artwork. The artwork does a lot of the storytelling in this one. In this, our main character, Ken, gets to meet his bias in person, June, and he completely like loses his shit. He's just like, he loses his shit. And I just love that they're exploring like this group in more detail, and like how just groups in general kind of like evolve over time, that, you know, this recognition that even being a part of a fandom, you have to realize that these people are human too, and they have their own emotions and thoughts and struggles that they're trying to work through. And I think Ken also has to realize that. So I really appreciated this 5-star read from me. I really, really love this. I then ended up reading The Apothecary Diaries Volume 3. Another solid addition to this. I love the mysterious elements in this, where our main character Mao Mao has to work through so many, I guess, has to use effectively deductive reasoning to figure out why certain things are happening. So in this one, she gets to go back home, and she gets involved in this mess at home, which I found to be really interesting. But this first picks up where we left off from volume 2, which I don't want to speak much about, but I do like seeing her go back home to the pleasure district and kind of talk about the dynamics there, and then kind of figuring out this whole situation with her father. Now, I'm definitely interested in learning more about the dynamics that she shares with her father, because she's clearly in some ways in debt to this older woman who runs this specific brothel. And I'm wondering how that dynamic worked out with her father, unless I missed that in volume 1 or 2, which has been a gap since I read volume 1 or 2, but I'm definitely going to continue on with this for 30 and 30. I have volumes 4 and 5, so I will be picking that up. And then I got 76 pages into why Raeliana ended up at the Duke's mansion. I'm probably going to finish this one tonight. This, literally picks up exactly where we left off from volume 1. And it's just, it's an interesting manual. So I'm going to try to finish this one tonight. And then I don't know what I'm going to do next. So I did say when I was on the live that I wanted to pick up Villains Are Destined to Die, volume number 3. But I don't know if I'm going to get to that one. I have a couple of other options, but we'll figure that out tomorrow. Because as of right now, it's a lot. Then this is the introduction to this vlog. I'm sitting here like I've actually done a sit down clip. I've done a sit down clip for this vlog yet. So hello, welcome to part 2. Or maybe I have. I don't think I have though. I'm pretty sure I haven't. So hello, welcome. Good to see you all. I'll check in later. Good morning. It is Friday, and I just wanted to hop in and do a quick check-in. I don't know what happened last night. Last night I think I hit some level of stress that I've been avoiding for a while, and so I kind of made the decision just to go to sleep instead of staying up and reading all night, because I've been using reading as a coping mechanism and it hasn't actually been that great. But I did finish a volume of manga last night, as well as a graphic novel. So I finished, I forget what it's called, but I'll put the picture. It's something, I think it's called Monstrous, my transracial adoption. I'm gonna give that one 4 stars. It's heavy. It's super heavy. It is about the author. It's about the author. I was to say it's about a person. It's about the author. It's autobiographical. It's about the author and their experience growing up in a small town in Maryland after being adopted from South Korea by a white family. It is super heavy. They grow up they're in high school by the 90s, so I believe they were born in 84, in between 84 and 86, one of those dates in that range. And they experience a lot of microaggressive behavior, blatant racism, making fun of how they look, making fun of their background, although, stereotypically they call them everything but what they are, which is Korean. So they get called Chinese and Japanese, and I mean, not Chinese and Japanese, but the horrendous slurs that are often associated with those that are Chinese Japanese or of Chinese Japanese descent. So that was a difficult read. It was tough. And I follow this human on Goodreads. Their name is Chad, and they do wonderful reviews of graphic novels and comics and manga. And so I always look to their stuff as like a point of reference to see like if we're feeling the same things, or if if I'm wondering if my feelings are valid. And Chad did point out something that I also agree with, that it's so dark that we really don't get to see the author spend any time being okay in their identity. And that could also be the fact that it is something that they're still working towards, because it's not a quick fix. It's not a one size fits all. They're dealing with multiple things. They were traumatized by the fact that they were given up for adoption, and then that's compounded with the issues that they're dealing with in terms of their identity and the racism that they face at school, with the lack of assistance from administrators and stuff. And a lot of times too, I feel like they wanted to take accountability, because a lot of it also has to do with the fact that they have mental health struggles, which presents in the form of anxiety and then lashing out with anger, because they're unable to understand why or how they're feeling, especially when they're younger. And a lot of it has to deal with insecurities. And so I understand taking accountability for not always being a great person, but sometimes it came across as if those individuals were being, I don't know, excused for behavior. And that didn't really sit well. It's not my story, so it's kind of hard for me to make that judgment. And people walk their own paths of forgiveness. And so I just felt like at some points in the story, like these people were being given a pat on the back for being older and probably not being as racist as they were when they were kids. And so I don't know. That's definitely just my personal opinion. I mean, it could be completely invalid, but I still thought the storytelling was great and the artwork was phenomenal. They are phenomenal artists. I really loved all of the conversations that they had in terms of like building community when you're adopted, not knowing where you've come from, and not having any type of connection to your culture. And so that's hard. And I think that they do make some commentary on transracial adoption and what happens when those kids are not given any type of access or education regarding their own culture. They grow up thinking that they are only one thing when it's more complex and nuanced than that. So like, for example, there's a scene where they're talking about being German, and you know, everyone's like, but no. And you know, granted, their adoptive parents are German, but then physically on the outside, people see that you're Asian, and so they're confused as to why you don't have any relationship with your Asian ancestry. So, and then, you know, their parents took a lot of responsibility for that, because they're like, we should have brought you up with, you know, some form of Korean culture, which I think is commentary on the dangers of transracial adoption if you do not immerse your child into the culture that they ancestry-wise are a part of, you know? So I don't know. I do appreciate that they gave their parents a lot of grace, because their parents were great. I mean, there was no ill will, no malice there. And at first, that's what I thought it was going to be about. I was like, oh, based on the cover, oh, this is going to be like horrible situation with the parents. But excuse me, honestly, the parents were great. They did everything they could do. They took so much accountability and responsibility, and you could tell that they really cared about their kids. And, you know, they stood up for their kids, especially the dad. The dad was great. I love the relationship that the author has with their father, because he's pretty much like, you know, violence is not the answer, but I hope you kicked his ass. And I'm kind of that parent too. Like, violence is not the answer, but, you know, there's just points when you want that vindication for your child, because you can't always be there to protect your child. And he knew that his child was getting bullied horribly, to the point that he was like, you know, we shouldn't even have raised you here. You know, maybe we should move, or you need to go to a different school, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you should not be going through this. So there's so many different pieces, parts, and components to it that I think just work so well. I love the conversation about queer identity. I love the conversation about the influence that manga and anime had on the creator, and recognizing the difference. The place that manga and anime has in the world right now is not what it was in the 90s and 2000s. Like, I grew up during that period. I grew up watching Sailor Moon, and so it was just interesting, like watching or reading about this creator growing up watching Sailor Moon and knowing that like you weren't cool for watching Sailor Moon, okay? Like now it's cool to watch anime and to read manga and to go to cons, but there is a generation of us, specifically, if I can get it out, specifically millennials. There's a huge generation, a pocket of us within millennials that have paid a hefty price for being fans of a medium that was often criticized or considered weird or babyish or just, you know, sexualized. And so now it's us, I think, trying to reckon with this fact that like, oh, manga and anime is popular. I remember when I used to get bullied for that. So it's a tough situation, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a tough situation to deal with where you're seeing this glorification of it, right? And it makes you happy that so much of it now is mainstream and there's so many kids that can identify with or enjoy manga and anime without having to be concerned about getting bullied for it. But then there's a part of you that's just like, dang, I wish I would have grown up in that way. You know, it would have saved me from a lot of different insecurities or being ashamed of a medium that I was, you know, really, really interested in. So I liked that they addressed that, because they also addressed that and they addressed K-pop. How being of Korean descent, being from Korea, because they were born in Seoul, Korea, that wasn't cool. Like, you know, K-pop now is taking the globe by storm, and like people have to understand that that was not always a thing. This is a new cultural phenomenon, and it's great that it's happening because so many people are getting exposure to different cultures. But at the same time, it's thinking about all the people that have gotten bullied and ostracized and have had to deal with so many insecurities because of their love of, you know, things like K-pop or manga or anime. But either way, I mean, when I tell y'all the art was phenomenal, it was so great. I love the artwork for this one. I thought they did such an excellent job. And honestly, I hope that they do more graphic novels in the future, because let me tell you, the art was it was some of the best art that I've seen. I really, really enjoy their art style. I definitely am going to check out I know that they've done other things, so I just want to check out and see what else they've done. And I think that they still do like commissions and stuff like at cons, and because they became huge into cons. I love that their dad took them to cons. It reminds me so much of the relationship that I have with my dad, because like he listens to all of the weird shit that I do. And like, that's the type of parent I want to be. Like, no, like my child's interested in something, maybe it's not my jam, you know, maybe I'm not 100% into it, but I want to be able to support my child in their passions and what they aspire to do and what makes them happy. And so like, my dad does that. He listens to me talk about books, about politics, TV, music, and like, he just shows such interest, and it was the same thing with their relationship. I just loved it. But either way, really, really great read. I know that's deviating from the manga, but I'm going to be reading other things besides manga. Not as much, but I do have some stuff that I need to get through that's not manga related. But speaking of manga, I did read Something's Wrong with This, volume 12. Was it volume 12? Yes, volume 12, because I checked out volume 12, 13, and 14 from the library. Let's just have a moment of silence for my psyche. Because I just, how much more can we go through? Like, how much more can we deal with at this point? How many more revelations can we come to? Because that final revelation in volume 12 was just, I can't even tell you what it was. Because we're at volume 12 and it's a huge spoiler. But just know, like, when does this series end? Because the stress of the series is enough to drive anyone absolutely bonkers at this point. And so I'm just, yes. I just can't. I just can't. Anyway, I gave it it's a 5-star read for me. There's no way I'm not going to continue to enjoy the rest of the series. I plan on reading volumes 13 and 14 this weekend, but I did get through volume 12. But I am literally about to go to work. I don't know how much I'm going to get read today for work. While I'm at work, it probably won't happen anymore until after I get off. So I will check in with y'all later. Hello everyone. Okay, so I wanted to do this quick check-in and close out this vlog. I have been sick all weekend, but I surprisingly enough have gotten a lot of reading done, but I literally have been disgustingly sick all weekend. It is what it is, unfortunately. My kid got some viral infection and passed it along to me, and that shit had been kicking my ass since last week, and it reached its peak this weekend. I'm feeling myself come down from it, which is great. But yes. All right. So I talked about the Yakuza Spies and Apothecary Diaries manga volume 3, right? So yesterday I read quite a bit. I read Burn the House Down volume 1. I hate the K manga app. I think Kodansha really needs to go back to the drawing board because that app is a piece of shit. But you know, I read whatever I can read that's free. I'll try a volume out, read a couple of chapters here and there just because it's free. And so there's that, and my library doesn't buy all of the manga in the world, but there's, you know. So one of them that I tried was Burn the House Down volume 1 by Muyashi Fujisawa. And it's literally about this girl who takes over her mom's cleaning service because she wants to get closer to this woman who supposedly took over her mother's role in their household. She basically set her mother up. Her mother ends up in a divorce, and then the lady goes and remarries this main character's father and starts a new life, and is getting all of this recognition for being a housewife and being a model and all this stuff. And so she's pretty pissed. So it's kind of like a revenge plot. I wasn't a huge fan of the art. That was number one issue that I think that I had. I wasn't a huge fan of the art, but I did think like the revenge plot of it was kind of interesting. So I did give that one 3.5 stars. I read the first volume of Yakuza Fiance. I actually like this one. I read Yakuza Lover Volume 1 and I was like, oh, don't know if this is for me. So there was that. The Way of the House Husband has a former Yakuza. I dropped that for a reason. So I haven't had good track record with Yakuza manga, but this one worked for me. I gave it 4 stars. It is about the two grandchildren of Yakuza bosses, and the two of them are basically put into an arranged marriage. They don't necessarily have to get married, but it would create an alliance between the two groups. And so she goes to Tokyo to get to know him and spend time with him. And he's strange. Like, he's a strange guy. Like, at first she's like, okay, he's really nice, but there's something about him that's off. And so she gets to the point where he's just pretty much like, yeah, you're too boring, to be honest with you. And so he has this masochist side to him. And so she's just kind of like, what the world? And so she has to do a 180 to kind of be like, okay, I'm not about to let you walk all over me and treat me like crap. And so she kind of feeds into it, and then he's just kind of like, I'm in love with you now. It's strange, and he's very, very weird, but I enjoyed it and it worked for me. I love the artwork in this one. The artwork was crisp, it was clean, it was just detailed. I really, really love the artwork in that one. I gave that one 4 stars. I also read Imakoi Now I'm in Love Volume 5. I had been meaning to pick this up because I read volumes 1 through 4, I think, randomly. I can't remember if I read them for the 30 and 30 in April or if I randomly read them, but I meant to pick back up with it. And so I read volume 5. I do plan to read volume 6 and be caught up with all the chapters that are available on this media. It's cute. Like, they're just the cutest couple. It is the like quintessential perfect high school relationship, and there's an introduction of a new character into volume 5, and she almost kind of like challenges their relationship a little bit, but not intentionally. And I like that they both have enough, I think, security in each other to, one, confront it, but then also like to reassure each other, like, I'm in this with you. Like, you know, she may be cute, but you're cuter. Like, it's cute. It's just really, really cute. So I enjoyed that part of it. And then I ended up trying Mashale. I don't know if that's how you say it. I know his name is Mash. But it's Magic and Muscles. I read volumes 1 and 2 of this. Now, I had heard that this was very similar to Harry Potter, right? I did not know that it literally is like a parody of it. And so it's hilarious. It's this main character by the name of Mash, and he lives in this world where everybody has magic, and their magical abilities are kind of defined by a mark that they have on their face, and he was born without one. And so his grandfather, which I don't want to go into that because I feel like it's a little bit of a spoiler, but his grandfather, for all intents and purposes, or his father, his father for all intents and purposes, raises him outside of society. That way no one discovers that he doesn't have magic, but he makes him train to become strong. So he's like this, like, think the most extreme bodybuilder. Like the first couple of panels where you see him, I mean, this guy is like pumping iron, right? And so basically he goes into town when he's not supposed to, and then that makes town members aware, and so basically they come to take him and kill him because they don't want non-magical people in their society because it's a sign of impurity. And basically he like kicks their ass. Like, it's just like, your magic is not enough to really stop me. And so they cut this deal with him and tell him he has to enroll in this magical school, and he has to become the divine visionary, and then they'll leave him alone. So he goes to the school. When I tell y'all, it literally is just it's a parody. It's a parody of Harry Potter. Like, I mean, literally, down to like the lessons that they have, down to, you could feel like what characters are supposed to emulate like the characters from the books. Like, you kind of, and it deviates, but there's definitely, like, for people who were once fans of the series like myself, who are very disappointed by what has occurred with it, like, this is a perfect kind of, like, it's not a substitute, but it's like it's a nostalgia thing, and it's so ridiculous that it's hilarious. Like, Mash he literally says in it, he has cream puffs for brains. He's not the brightest crayon in the box, and so it makes it even more humorous because you can tell he just doesn't get it, and he's definitely all bronze, no brains. And so, like, but it's funny because everyone underestimates him, but he always is rooting for the underdog. So if he sees anybody being bullied or picked on, he's kind of like, yeah, that's not gonna happen on my watch, and like, I don't care how strong you may think you are with your wand, but I'm finna kick your ass. 100%. And I love any manga that can make me literally laugh out loud. Like, whenever the Yakuza Volume 2, literally laughed out loud. Reading this series, literally laughing out loud. So I did enjoy them. I think that there's some quirks a little bit with the art for me, so I gave both volumes 4 stars, but I am excited to continue on with the rest of the series, which I am reading through the Shonen Jump app. So there's that. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this vlog out because I feel like I just need to close it out at this point, and I will be excited to jump into next week's vlog. Y'all let me know in the comment box below how you've been doing for 30 and 30. Oh, by the way, I just should say I am currently up to 20 volumes, which still keeps me on track to finish 60 for the month. Not my goal, but unfortunately it's looking like by the time we hit the 15th on Friday, I could possibly be done with the 30 and 30 challenge, but we shall see. Y'all let me know in the comments how far you've made it in the challenge so far. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. And if you're interested in following me on social media, all the links will be down in the description box below, and I'll be back with another video soon.